In today's video, I'm going to take a look at one of the setups that we identified in the last breakout session in RTN. Okay, these sessions I do Mondays and Wednesdays. I do them at 10 a.m. Pacific, and what I do is I start with blank charts, and people ask me to, give them an idea of a trade setup or what we can do with it. So in this case, this is what the chart looked like in the beginning. There really wasn't anything except a general bullish pattern of higher highs and higher lows. So from that, I basically took all of the prior declines within the uptrend and projected them from the recent high to find a setup where I could identify the risk on a new buy entry. And this is what it ended up looking like, because it's very tedious to run all of these swings. It takes a while. So instead of doing it again, I'm just going to show you the end result. What else I usually put on the daily chart is a 200 simple, a 50 simple, and then I like to use the 5 and 13 EMAs, because if the 5's above the 13, usually you want to go in that direction. It's ideal if you have all of the moving averages that support the buy. Well, here's what happened. I ran a bunch of the projections and I found there's really either two larger areas of support, or you can even break this down into three if you wanted to. But what happened was we had the first area of support that came in anywhere between this 185.83 to 186.62 area. We ended up making the low, let's see, on December 21st, directly within that zone. And I know that we did see buy triggers. I can give you an example of a buy trigger on this one. Actually, I can show you a couple. And then you have to know that this area, defines my risk, or it's either underneath this zone or underneath the low that was made prior to your buy trigger. So let me show you a buy trigger. This is a 30-minute chart. This is where you can see that we had tested that support back here. We had a moving average crossover to the upside here. In the process, we also took out a prior swing high, so you shifted from a bearish pattern to a bullish pattern. And at that point, that's when you want to look at this one on the buy side and then define your initial risk, like I said, either underneath the low that was made prior to the buy trigger or underneath the low end of the zone. Okay, either way is okay. And then as far as what the potential is on the upside, if it plays out fully from this first support area where we started to see buy triggers from, your initial upside target comes in at 194.01. So, as far as with the initial test here, the risk reward, extremely good. And still at this point, you can look at pullbacks here. You don't have to risk to all the way underneath here. But bottom line, this is still a pretty good risk reward, because our upside potential, or at least the minimum, is to this 194 area. And the risk, well, max risk, let's say it's underneath this low at this point. So this is one I would still be looking at. I would be stalking maybe pullbacks on an intraday chart for an entry. And then I would have to consider myself wrong if we broke underneath this area.